Be it a sustainable Australia, capping migration or turning back the boats, population is one of the issues being discussed in this federal election campaign. Brisbane's Lord Mayor Campbell Newman is critical of the debate so far and has a different approach to population and growth. Using his city of Brisbane as an example, he says growth has made it a far better place than it was 20 years ago, and if the challenges of congestion and infrastructure were addressed, the national conversation would be different. Earlier I spoke with Brisbane Lord Mayor Campbell Newman. Campbell Newman, welcome to State Line. This federal election we're hearing much about the issues of migration, population growth and sustainability. But do you think most of the heat would be taken out of these issues if there was better management of growth?
Well, I think that the debate has gone a very unfortunate direction. I think there's been a whole lot of pandering essentially to the natural fears of our population across the nation at the moment about some of the things that are going on, about congestion on their roads and long waiting queues in hospitals and the like. But the bottom line is the politicians have taken it off in the wrong direction, and it's a bit curious they've done that. But because what they should have been doing is dealing with the issues. That's the job of federal, state and local governments, to plan for the future and to deliver infrastructure and services to actually make our country and our cities better places to be in.
So do you think some of the feelings in the community are not about population growth itself, it's about the pressures of population growth?
Look, people are concerned about the sort of the downside, if you like, of population growth, the negatives, the things that are going wrong in our cities. So they're concerned about crowded buses and trains. They're concerned about not being able to get into to see a doctor in an emergency. Those are the things that really worry them, particularly in the bigger cities, and we hear about Western Sydney. But what was required over all the last 15 to 20 years was proper investment in infrastructure, and that's where it really comes down to the pointy end. It's a failure really by state and to a certain extent the federal government to actually fund these things and deliver.
Even if there was better management of growth, what about the inevitable lifestyle changes that have to happen?
Lifestyle changes do occur in cities and across our country as we grow. But let's just look at Brisbane. I don't think anyone really would seriously want to go back to the Brisbane of 1985 in terms of the way this city has changed in a positive manner. I mean, no city cat ferries, no outdoor dining, no Gallery of Modern Art or fantastic cultural precinct, no South Bank parklands, no wonderful network of bikeways. And believe it or not, the suburbs of Brisbane are greener and leafier today than they were in 1985, and satellite imagery will prove that. So, Brisbane has come forward. It's a wonderful multicultural city, a wonderfully diverse city with lots of opportunity, and probably per capita GDP is higher as well. So that's the upside of growth. The downside is the responsibility of government to try and deal with and manage as we go forward.
Do we need more people to have a better Australia?
Well, that's one really you should put to an economist. What I have as a challenge as a local government official is to deal with the cards as they're dealt to me, ultimately by the federal government through their immigration policies. But if they want to have a higher level of migration in the country, that's fine, but provide me and other mayors with the financial support to deliver the infrastructure and services that are required. If you want to throttle back, well, obviously the burden will go down on various governments across this region, but similarly the economic opportunities probably will drift away as well, and that's what any economist will tell you.
What are you hoping to see from both sides, your party, the Coalition, as well as Labor, as they roll out promises then in this federal election campaign?
Well, the interesting thing for me is that the campaign's been going for several weeks, and yet no one's dealing with the real issue in South East Queensland, which is traffic congestion. It is the number one issue. When we go out and talk to people, they don't talk about all these federal issues. I mean, they're obviously interested, but the number one issue that affects the daily lives of people across the greater Brisbane area is the issue of trying to get to and from work, get your kids to school, go about your business. And we've seen a couple of announcements. We've seen an announcement about the railway line to Redcliffe. We saw an announcement by the Coalition on the Toowoomba Range bypass. We saw an announcement by Labor on the Black Soil intersection on the Warrego Highway. But the problems of South East Queensland are well documented in the regional plan and in the infrastructure plan, the state's infrastructure plan. And it would be great for these federal pollies to sort of realise what the game is here in this part of the world, come to town and say this is their comprehensive plan to fund the infrastructure to deal with the number one issue, traffic congestion. I'm waiting for it. I hope we'll see it before the end of this campaign, but I'm not holding my breath, I'm afraid.
Campbell Newman, thank you very much for talking to Stateline.
Thanks very much for having me.